Hey everyone! If you're like me, those perimenopause symptoms are driving you crazy. Well, I've got a little help for you. All you need to do is go to my midlifewithcourage.com website, and a little box is going to pop up that's going to ask you if you'd like to get my free ebook called Balancing Your Hormones. It's a short little guide with tips that you can use throughout the day, super easy, to help you balance out those hormones through the things that you do. So check it out, midlifewithcourage.com. Now let's get back to the show.
Basically, Alzheimer's is the body's defense to different insults. So the body's defense to inflammation that's going on in the body. Insulin resistance is a huge factor in the development of Alzheimer's. Trophic withdrawal, so like low hormone levels. As we age, especially women, our estrogen and our hormone levels drop, and that has a huge impact on getting the necessary nutrients needed to the brain. A lot of us are
Sure.
nutrient deficient, so a lot of those nutrients are necessary in the brain for their cellular processes, and even low vitamin D for years on end can have a huge impact.
You are listening to the Midlife with Courage podcast. This is where women in midlife come for inspiration, motivation, and sometimes a little education to help them flourish after 40. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Midlife with Courage. I am Kim Benoit, your host. I am very happy to have my guest here with me today. Her name is Heather Cracauer. Welcome to the podcast, Heather.
Yeah, thanks, Kim, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Tell the listeners what you want them to know about you before we jump into your story.
Sure. I am a trained pharmacist and now owner of two businesses, which I never ever thought I would say. So, yeah, life takes you on a journey, and here I am. I've got a functional medicine consulting business and a full service travel business.
Wonderful. Oh, we're going to jump into that. But first, when was a time in your life when you felt courageous or you showed courage?
Yeah, great question. It's definitely when I started my businesses. Having a science background, I maybe took one class in economics slash business, and boy, did I step out of my comfort zone. And it took a lot of courage and just a lot of trusting my instincts and just knowing that what I'm doing is driven by me wanting to make a difference in the world and sharing my knowledge and my gifts with people. And that's what drives me to learn. And, you're with a business, you're constantly changing and
Mm-hmm.
updating, and the world is constantly changing. So you're always learning something new and faced with new challenges.
Yeah. It is very courageous to start a new business. And I've done that myself, so I hear you. So tell us your story. Why are you so interested in this? And I know you said you're a trained pharmacist, and we may have our preconceptions about what a pharmacist does. And to me, my preconceptions were now she does functional medicine. So maybe, I mean, tell us your story. Tell us, do you consider it changing lanes or you tell us?
It's a big story. So I'll start from the beginning. Since
Yeah.
high school, I had a passion for science and especially how it applied to caring for people. And after getting my undergraduate degree in biology and anthropology, I found myself drawn to pharmacy. I liked science, I liked healthcare, but I didn't necessarily want to do the nurse doctor, didn't want to deal with the blood, but wanted knowledge. So it was a good fit for me. So after pharmacy school, I started in community pharmacy, started at Target Pharmacy. I think I was there for about 4 years, absolutely loved it. And then I moved to Fairview Pharmacy, it was still a community pharmacy, but a little more clinical role because it was housed in the building with the clinic. So there was a lot more interaction with the doctors and collaboration, which was really, really neat. And then from there, I jumped into hospital pharmacy, which again, I never thought I would do. You never know where life is going to take you.
Exactly.
So this was a very unique position. I wasn't necessarily in the hospital pharmacy I was a liaison, so the position was called the medication discharge teaching pharmacist position. So I
Ah,
was the liaison. I sat in the children's hospital at the U of M, and I was the liaison between the doctors and nurses that are working to discharge these really, really complex patients and the discharge pharmacy, making sure that all of the meds are filled correctly, solving any of the problems on my end for them. And then the meds were brought up to me, and I actually walked into the patient's room and I could spend an hour teaching them
wow.
on what they were going home on because a lot of these patients were transplant patients. So when you're leaving for the first time with a transplant, you've got upwards of 20 medications that you're taking on.
Wow.
You won't stay on all of them. They will kind of taper down, but that's where you start. And there's a lot of drug interactions between all of these meds, but you need to be on all of them. And yeah, so it was really rewarding to be able to take that time and spend teaching and making sure that they understand the how and the why and, how they can best work the medication schedule into their schedule because it's a
Right.
lot of dosing throughout the day. So,
That is such a huge job. And coming from the background of being a nurse and, discharging, I didn't work with transplant people, but okay, here's your discharge meds. What questions do you have? I didn't have the time to go through the meds with them like I should have, or maybe, like I'm for definitely sure how you did. So that is a huge job.
yeah, and quite frankly, they don't have the time in a pharmacy to do that either.
Yeah.
To spend that much time on a patient that's that complex. So I
Hmm.
think it's a really big need that I think all hospitals should have,
For sure.
whether children's hospital or adult hospital. So
Right.
really
Right.
unique position. However, in 2020, that position was eliminated because of COVID or the pause, some people like to call it,
The
because
pause.
they were, trying to save money. And so that was pretty sad to lose that position, but it probably like that's where my life pivoted. And in addition to losing my position, shortly thereafter, I also contracted COVID for the first time with the rest of the family.
Mhm.
And everybody else breezed through it, and I did not. I got long COVID and I, spent just a really long time feeling worn down. I could hardly make it through the day without having to lay down and take a nap every day. I had the chronic headaches. I developed tingling and numbness in my hands and arms and legs, and it was awful. And that is when I turned to functional medicine to help me get better, based on the advice of my physician, which
Oh.
thankfully she knew it was Alina Pharmacy, so they have a functional medicine clinic within Alina, and she said, this is maybe something that they might be able to help you with.
That is so interesting and kind of amazing too, that
Yeah.
a Western medicine doctor would say that.
Yes,
I think
she's
that's wonderful.
phenomenal. She understands the connection between both, and when she doesn't necessarily have the answers or can help, will offer guidance as to
Wow.
where to find it, which, it's amazing.
That's
So,
rare, I think. It sounds like.
yeah,
But
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
they just don't have the time.
Yeah. Can we just define for the listeners who may not know what functional medicine is?
Sure. Yep. So, functional medicine is a systems-based approach to medicine. And basically, you're looking for the root cause of what's causing your problems and trying to unravel and solve everything at the root so that the whole body can heal. It's fascinating. And this is where I started to kind of go down that road. It sees the whole body as all of
Mhm.
the systems working together versus Western medicine, where you see a GI doctor for bad case of reflux, or you see a neurologist if you have headaches, where in actuality, all of these things might be interrelated by one cause. So,
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot of testing that's done in functional medicine, different, you know, there's different hormone panels that are way more in depth than what you have done at the regular, your Western medicine doctor. Salivary cortisol tests, the gut microbiome tests are very, very common and really, really insightful. That's where a lot of these practitioners start. There's food sensitivity testing, genetic testing. I mean, you can test and test and test for days. You don't necessarily need to get everything done, but
Yeah.
it's a great way to actually try to figure out where do we start with you and how can we solve this and help you.
Hmm. So can you share how did that work for you in trying to figure out what was going on with the long COVID?
Yeah, yeah. So it started with the gut microbiome test, and immediately they found that I had a really, really bad case of SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And then other markers kind of cued them into, oh, well, this marker is really high. Usually when it's like off the charts high, that could be mold. So then they tested for mold, and I did have mold toxicity. I have no idea when I got it, but after I
Oh,
learned all of this, I was like, oh, and learned more and more about functional medicine. I was like, oh, that makes total sense. My body has been fighting this mold for how many years? My immune system has been constantly on guard and on high alert.
mhm.
And then, I think the gut probably just followed in addition to, learning through functional medicine that long-term antibiotics and hormones and meds just destroy the gut, which I used for many, many years.
Uh-huh.
When you have acne back in the 1990s, what did they throw at you? Clindamycin. Here, take this every day.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know. So,
Right. And then you have that underneath, and then you get COVID, which your immune system goes, oh, wait, no, this is not good.
yep, yep. And that is why I didn't recover. And
Yeah.
so I had to go through long COVID treatment. I had to go through a total gut healing protocol and then mold treatment. And it took years. I mean, it's not something that just changes overnight, but
Yeah.
slowly, you know, everything just started to improve and I
Mhm.
became human again.
Human again. Yay. Yeah, I think that's one of the more challenging parts of this functional medicine is it takes time. It's
It
not
does.
a quick fix, which is what we want. We want everything to be done quickly, but we have to change that mindset to, nope, it took a long time to get to this point. Now we got to take some time to get back to what we want it to be or what it should be.
Yes, and
Yeah,
along with functional medicine, which I appreciate, is they also look at your lifestyle. And that is part of your protocol too. It's not just, oh, we're going to give you this treatment of these herbal antibiotics or whatever they want to throw at you. It's also you need to change your diet. You need to incorporate more vegetables and fruit that will help you actually metabolize and help your liver detoxify and get rid of all of this stuff. So
sure.
everything works synonymously. And yeah, it does take time to make those adjustments and make
Yeah.
those changes.
Yeah. So you were feeling better, and is that when you decided you wanted to help other people, or how did
Yeah,
that all come about?
yeah. I think when you go through a health journey like that, you just kind of awaken and you realize, wow, if I went through this, there's probably a lot of other people in the world that are going through something similar. And just the science behind functional medicine, I had all this time because I wasn't working, even though I had kids at home and I was homeschooling them for a year and a half.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah. So I dabbled into, just learning because I love to learn anyway. So I started with the functional nutrition program at Mind Body Green, which dove deeply into the science behind nutrition and how that impacts health. But they also talked a lot about some functional medicine principles and also they kind of dabbled in different testing. So that really had my interest peaked. And then I started a functional medicine program. It was all online. It's a 200-hour program. and it's only offered for healthcare practitioners. So then I dove into that, and that took me probably a good year to get through, and then took the exams at the end. And then through that program, when I was listening to all the lectures, I was introduced to actually the Alzheimer's prevention that Dr. Bredesen had
Mhm.
or is doing. He has his recode program for
Yeah.
active Alzheimer's patients and the pre-code program for prevention of Alzheimer's. And so once I finished, I was like, oh, well, that sounds really interesting. I'm going to do
Yeah.
that too. So, so
Just
I
finding all these
did.
things to do.
Right. So I completed his 30-hour program and learned again so much. And then my husband at that point, it's like, you can't just keep taking classes. You need to do something with all this knowledge. How are you going to help people? So that's when I decided that I was going to open my functional medicine consulting business. And, and that's where the courage comes in.
Mhm.
I'm starting from scratch. I don't have, a blueprint for this is what you need to do to start a business. These are the things you need to do. So I had to figure out
Yeah.
what services do I want to offer? What do I want to charge? How do I want my workflow to be?
Yeah.
Uh, just all of that. So,
Yeah.
yes, how my business was kind of born.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And anybody who starts a business from whatever walk of life or past profession or career they come from, it's difficult. But I think an aspect of someone like you and I who come from a healthcare provider, caring, you know, position, it's hard to think, oh, okay, this is income producing and numbers and
Yeah,
charging for what I do. I think that's the hardest part for me was charging, money for what I do. But
exactly. And charging what you think you're worth. It
yeah,
is so different because when you work in healthcare, your patients just come to you. You
right.
don't have to worry about it. You step in, you clock in, and you're busy that whole shift, and then you clock out, and then
Hmm.
you do it over and over again. And yeah,
Right.
it's very different.
Yeah. So where did you go for business help? Are you just kind of doing it and seeing what happens, trying things? And I'm just
Um,
thinking if there's anyone out there listening who might want to do something, what would you suggest maybe?
I did listen to some classes through SCORE, which is a free service offer for anybody that wants to sign up. And they
Sure.
they have a lot of really good lectures that you can listen to. And my husband is quite good at business just through his experience with his work. And so we'll have little powwows, and he's actually
Nice.
one that kind of keeps me on the straight and narrow. Okay, what are your metrics? Let's look at your actual
Oh,
numbers. So
nice. Nice.
it's nice to have somebody that can kind of walk you along through that.
Yeah, you have a live-in business consultant.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
When he's home.
When he's home. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because you have kids and a husband who travels and you've got two businesses. And I know we're talking about the functional medicine, but do you want to just mention your other business too? Because you helped me with that business.
Yeah. Yeah. So in 2023, again, my business-minded husband wanted to purchase a franchise even before COVID, just to give me something to do extra that would allow me to be home and kind of balance things a little better.
Hmm.
And this cruise planners franchise came up before COVID. I'm really glad we didn't buy it before because man, did they go through their struggles.
Oh, no.
But then in 2023, it kind of came up again. And he's like, I really still want to buy a franchise. And he started looking again. And then I started looking. And again, he brought up cruise planners. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do some research into that because A, I love to travel. B, I was an anthropology major and I love culture.
Ah,
And I kind of did a deeper dive into, okay, well, I love health and wellness. What about wellness travel? That could definitely tie into meshing both of the businesses together.
mhm.
And so I did it. I mean, traveling, just stepping away from your normal life,
Ah,
just, resets the mind.
Yep.
And then if you venture into like a wellness retreat or a wellness cruise, just an experience like that, it takes it a step further where you intentionally slow down. You have relaxation, you have different movement, you could do mindful activities, and then with a lot of those, you are being served cuisine that is more healthy, so that when you
Yeah.
get home, you don't feel like you gained 10 pounds. You actually feel reset, and your body is probably even healthier than it was before you left if
Yeah.
it's hard to cook at home and
Oh, yeah.
be healthy all the time.
I
So,
know. Yeah, the listeners, I know I've talked about this on my website and my blogs. I did take a trip. My husband and I took a trip over to Europe, did a Rhine River cruise through. Heather helped us out with that, so thank you very much. And yeah, the best part was we were just away from here and we could focus on each other and just having a good time and stuff. So yeah, even if it's not a wellness trip, it is a wellness trip because
yes.
it does
Yeah.
help. So yeah, so I love that. So if listeners are looking for someone to help them book a cruise, contact Heather. We'll have her information at the end. But let's go back to our functional medicine. And you mentioned earlier that you learned a lot about Alzheimer's and prevention. And those are two words that don't always go together. We don't hear those words together a lot. So
Right.
we're kind of told, well, it's just inevitable. But let's talk about that a little bit because I know there's people out there who maybe have parents in the situation. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's chat about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, Alzheimer's takes decades to develop. So, eh, starting prevention in your 40s and 50s is definitely going to make a huge impact as you age into your 70s, 80s, and 90s if you make it that long. And I really like Dr. Bredesen's approach. I mean, he is actively treating people with Alzheimer's and reversing their symptoms back
Wow.
to normal. Yeah, it's crazy. Now, I only focus on prevention because I simply don't have the time to dive into somebody that has active symptoms.
Sure.
And a lot of times that may require more testing and, just a lot more counseling as well. So, but according to Dr. Bredesen, there's 36 contributors to Alzheimer's, and he names 6 different subtypes. And basically, Alzheimer's is the body's defense to different insults. So the body's defense to inflammation that's going on in the body. Insulin resistance is a huge factor in the development of Alzheimer's. Trophic withdrawal, so like low hormone levels. As we age,
Mm,
especially women, our estrogen and our hormone levels drop, and that has a huge impact on getting the necessary nutrients needed to the brain. A lot of us are
sure.
nutrient deficient, so a lot of those nutrients are necessary in the brain for their cellular processes, and even low vitamin D for years on end can have a huge impact.
Hmm.
So the 6 different subtypes that he names are inflammatory. So that's going to be driven by systemic inflammation, which can be through infections in the body.
Hmm.
Leaky gut syndrome, which is pretty common in our society because we eat the Western diet that's just filled with a bunch of junk. And chronic immune activation. The second subtype is atrophic, which again, I touched on is lack of support to the brain. So that's going to be caused by your low levels of hormones or low levels of nutrients. The third type, he actually calls type 1.5, and that is going to be related to insulin resistance and, just years of high blood sugar and the impact that that has on the body.
Hmm.
Another cause is from toxins. So, exposure to different toxins, heavy metals, molds, pesticides. And a lot of times when you see early onset Alzheimer's, Dr. Bredesen often finds that this is usually caused by toxins.
Ah,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, you've got the vascular aspect, which most people would probably equate, you've reduced blood flow to the brain because you have vascular diseases. And
Sure.
then The last is from traumatic brain injuries. So all of these, I mean, you don't necessarily fall into one category. A lot of times it's a combination of one or two or multiple. So, but it's
Sure.
just a different way of looking at what are the causes of Alzheimer's and
Yeah.
how can you prevent that?
Yeah. So how do we prevent that? And you don't, I mean, that could be a whole other episode, but I'm guessing, like you just said, the six subtypes, nutrition, better health, move our bodies, exercise, keep that vascular system, our heart working well. Tell us how you're helping people prevent Alzheimer's then.
So, I mean, number one, you really want to look at controlling your blood glucose. And Dr. Bredesen is a huge proponent of the keto flex diet. So just keeping your body in ketosis because the ketones are actually the main fuel for the brain.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, but you can lower your blood sugar naturally by obviously eating less carbs, but there's different supplements, natural supplements that help. Cinnamon is one. If
Hmm.
you add cinnamon to your smoothie, like a tablespoon a day. That's going to help regulate your blood sugar. Zinc is really important there because zinc is critical for insulin release. So just simple things like that.
Oh, okay.
Yep, resolving inflammation. So, again, just looking at different sources of inflammation that might be the cause in your body. And here, I mean, high dose omega-3s are really helpful with reducing inflammation just overall. And
Hmm.
it's really good for your heart too. So then you get that vascular aspect too. So that's always just, one of the major supplements that I recommend.
So is that like fish oil? Is that what
Yeah,
it? Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
a fish oil
Yep.
supplement. Another obviously is going to be exercising. So, I mean, obviously, if you are doing cardio, you're increasing the oxygen to the brain, and weight training actually helps with insulin. So,
Hmm.
it's important to do both, not just one, not the other.
Yeah. And it's
So,
recommended for women our age as well.
yes, to help with bone health,
Hmm.
definitely the strength training every
Hmm.
day. Detoxification, so making sure that your body is detoxifying because we are exposed to so many toxins in our environment
Yeah.
every day, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
So, just eating a high fiber diet, drinking filtered water, using a sauna if you can to help sweat it out. And there's a number of supplements that you can take that help support your detoxification system
Hmm.
as well. Stimulation. So using your brain every day. And that's something that's pretty easy that everybody can do. And it doesn't have to be anything expensive or fancy. If it's a crossword, Sudoku,
Yeah.
anything like that, just 15 to 20 minutes a day is going to help your brain just regenerate and form new pathways. And that's what you
Yeah.
want. You don't want it to go dormant.
Right.
So
So is And people, this is not medical advice. We want to put that disclaimer out there. If you are interested in this, see someone like Heather. See Heather. We'll put her contact information in there. But is there any, you focus on prevention, but is there any help for people who already have dementia or they have Alzheimer's by incorporating these things? Does it maybe stop the advancement of it a little bit, or do we know that?
yeah, for sure. So there definitely is help and there are practitioners out there and if you contact me, I will gladly and I have done this multiple times
Mhm.
to help you find a practitioner within your area that can help you. But absolutely, I mean, I can't obviously say that you can reverse it, but
Right.
you can keep it at bay just by, doing a lot of these everyday lifestyle modifications and,
Mhm.
using some of the supplements as well.
Sure, sure. So, what would be, if someone was interested in diving more into this, what would be their first step?
Step is I would visit Dr. Bredesen's page, which is apollohealthco.com, I believe is the website.
Okay.
And I believe he has a book too. So visit the book, and
Okay,
it's a good read and pretty easy and simple and fast, but kind of
good.
dives into his approach and his recommendations.
Okay.
Definitely start there. And, if you do have somebody with active Alzheimer's symptoms on Apollo Health, you can actually find a practitioner in your
Okay.
area.
Okay. And so just going back a little bit, what if take the Alzheimer's out of it? If there's someone out there listening who wants to find out how she can use functional medicine in her own life, what she needs to do, what would she do? Should she contact you? Do you want to tell us where to find you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
My business is Cracauer Functional Pharmacy Solutions, LLC.
Okay.
It's kind of a mouthful, but my website is cracauerfunctionalpharmacy.com.
Okay. We'll put that link in the show notes. So what happens when they reach out to you?
Yeah,
What's kind
I
of the
do.
first thing that you would do with them?
Absolutely. I do offer a free 15-minute consultation. So that's usually the best thing, just to meet face to face virtually over Zoom, just
Yeah.
to see what your needs are and how I can best help. I mean, I've had people that have wanted to do certain things, and I've steered them away and said, I think this might be a little more helpful at this point. And
Mhm.
but it's great to connect, one, to see if you vibe with the practitioner that you're working
Yeah.
with, and two, just to get an insight into how I can help.
Yeah. So do you do the testing yourself, or I'm assuming you refer people out to a lab or something to
Yeah,
do
I
a
don't
testing?
do ton of testing. I do food sensitivity testing, and
Okay.
that is KBMO. So when you sign up for a consultation, then I will direct you. You buy your kit right on the KBMO website, but I'll direct you as to which one to buy, because there's multiple, and which one I think would best fit your needs.
Okay.
And then once that test is sent back, then they send me the test results right away, which
Okay.
is cool. And then I'll read it, and then I'll set up a consultation.
Okay.
I can guide and make suggestions as to what might be helpful for you
Right.
and who might be able to dive a little deeper into your
Yeah.
needs.
So you'd be a great resource regardless of what they're looking for, it
Yeah,
sounds like.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Always happy to help people,
Yeah.
me or, you know, sending on to other practitioners, just because I love to help improve people's health and their lives.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point. You may not have the best help for them, but you know who will, and here you go. I think that's wonderful. That's sometimes missing in how people care for each other. But anyway, so before we end this and say goodbye, is there anything else you want to share with the listeners? Maybe something we didn't cover or something you want to say again?
Gosh, we covered so much.
I know.
I guess my message is, if you haven't heard of functional medicine, Google it. It's been around for quite some time, but it's really starting to pick up, and it really can have a huge impact on your health in a good way.
In a good way. Yeah, I love it. And it gives me hope that your Western doctor, I saying it again, your Western doctor suggested you go to functional medicine. I think that's amazing because it's not one or the other is the best. They can work together.
Exactly. And that's when it does work the best, when you
Yeah.
are meshing both. There definitely is a time when we need Western medicine.
Yep.
And there is a time when we can venture out into different principles, and
Yeah.
they work synonymously with each other. And once you get healthier, sometimes you may need less medication, or you may not need medication. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of, it's really cool to see when that does happen.
Yeah. Totally agree. Wonderful. Well, Heather, this has been so amazing. I'm so glad that we have had this chat. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yes, thank you, Kim. It was a pleasure.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Thank you for listening to the Midlife with Courage podcast. If you liked what you heard, I would love it if you would leave a review. It really is appreciated. Even better, send a link of this episode to a friend. Until next time, take care of your beautiful self.